ᴅᴏᴏධs, and welcome to the continued reading of the mind. This is part 2. Scroll 4, Health and Relaxation. 19 times 3 equals 38. Lo, O my children, what I must impart upon your minds is the importance of a healthy mind, body, and soul, and a proper relaxation. Remember, my child, the very words healthy and health begins with the word heal. To heal oneself is step 1. To heal one's mind will heal one's whole body, and relaxation is simply to learn to relax. What ye must always remember, by taking proper care of your physical body, you are protecting your inner spirit, and by poisoning your physical body, be it through drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, junk food, sugars, or salts, and I can go on, you are doing serious harm to your spirit, and it becomes weaker and weaker. Through the teachings of the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, AMOM, you will be taught on how to nourish your body as well as your soul. Know ye that proper exercise, proper breathing, proper relaxation, proper diet, and intake of much water, and positive thinking are the requisite attendant that lead to a healthy, dynamic, and effective existence. Proper relaxation is needed to maintain mental, spiritual, and physical health. Many of ye think that relaxation involves leaving home for some exotic place, where the mind and the body are ceaselessly pumped with stimulants and depressants, and a full range of other damaging delights. True relaxation comes from removing the stimuli, visual, edible, and otherwise, and tuning into the inner awareness. Like any piece of sturdy machinery, Enocyte's physical and mental bodies can take quite a bit of abuse before giving any signs of protest. Unfortunately, in Western thinking, it has become a practice to ignore the basic rules of health, and to think that a pill here or there which relieves symptoms will actually bring about well-being. Quite the opposite is true. Pain in the body is a warning, like a red light on the instrument panel of a car. Taking this or that compound of chemicals to remove the symptoms is the same as taking a hammer and breaking the red light. It does nothing to solve the problem, and in fact makes it worse, while only giving the appearance of helping. Many chemicals ingested are not useful to the body and cannot be eliminated, and therefore merely stored. The medicines accumulated along with the food additives that are eaten in such abundance, on the average of 25 pounds per person per year, and they combine with each other to literally poison the system. The effects may not be felt for many years. This does not mean that there is no need for modern medicine, yet herbs of your own is much better. But too often, doctors are considered to have some form of absolute knowledge. Too often, frequent visits to the local GP, general practitioners, specialists, or psychologists are substituted for living a healthy life. Most of the diseases of the mind and body can be eliminated by following the 5 basic points. A. Proper exercise. B. Proper breathing. C. Proper relaxation. D. Proper diet with much water. E. Positivity. And thinking, prayer, and meditation. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Scroll 5. Diet. 19 times 5 equals 95. Lo, thou should ponder on taking proper diet for thyself, which ye can also learn through the teachings of the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. Improper diet is another hindrance to spiritual progress. All foods have distinctive energies, just as a physical body is formed from the gross physical portions of the foods that are eaten. So the mind is formed from the more subtle portions. If the food is impure, the mind also becomes impure. Cigarettes, liquor, narcotics, and fast food, and too much meat are the most detrimental. In fact, meat at all. Meals should be simple, light, and nutritious. Seafood, my child, is healthy, however, none in excess. Most people eat far more than necessary, merely out of habit, or for the sense of gratification. An immoderate diet is the cause of the great majority of diseases which are encountered in modern society. The mind is always looking for an excuse to avoid discipline. Ye must always listen to the inner voice of thyself. There is two sides to you, 180 degrees of agreeable and 180 degrees of disagreeable. 1% is all that it needs to shift your emotions. 181 to the left starts the path of disagreeable actions, or very agreeable. You are in control. Listen to the voice of agreeable things, rather than to the voice complaining of the disagreeable mind. What goes into the human body correlates directly to the efficiency with which the brain functions. Recent studies show that certain red food coloring creates hyperactivity in children, and that refined sugar can cause emotional instability, and this is what most start their children on. These are just two examples of the substance that are heedlessly consumed, without understanding the effect on the body and mind, each of which have two parts. The body is 1. Voluntary, 2. Involuntary, that which you control and that which takes control of itself, and of the mind, 1 good and 2 evil, which also try to take control. Many intakes are bad, although not categorized as harmful foods. These substances should be strictly avoided. Marijuana, cigarettes, alcohol, drugs. There is a growing awareness that our health is directly affected by what we eat. Almost any disease can be cured by just a change in diet or a short period of fasting, and with no medication at all. This is not only true of physical disorders, but of many mental difficulties as well. It is particularly important that pregnant mothers have this awareness, for too often they do not realize the effect of their diet on the developing fetus. Contrary to the popular concept, it is not vegetarians who do not get enough protein, but rather heavy meat eaters who take in an excess of protein. Animal protein contains a high concentration of uric acid, which is a nitrogen compound similar to ammonia. It is not water soluble and cannot be broken down by the liver. Thus, though a certain amount is eliminated, the greater portion of uric acid is deposited into the joints. The result of this is referred to as arthritis. Hardening of the arteries and heart disease are two of the most common maladies of the Western world, where the greatest amount of meat is consumed. The culprit, my child, is cholesterol, which also cannot be eliminated from the body, and thus forms fatty deposits along the walls of the heart and arteries, gradually thickening until they are clogged and inflexible. The majority source of cholesterol comes from the hundreds of pounds of animal tissue and its fats that each person consumes each year. Heart disease, hardening of the arteries, and arthritis are common infirmities. However, the one that strikes the most fear in the hearts of Westerners is cancer. Many substances have been found to create cancer in animals. However, results always seem to indicate that the amount consumed by the average person is insufficient to create cancer. What is not revealed is that the accumulation over these poisons over a period of years does create cancer. These substances are innumerable chemicals that are injected into animals. They increase weight to yield more dollars per animal. Nitrates, food coloring, artificial hormones, and even arsenic are among the chemicals contained in animal flesh by the time it goes on the supermarket shelf. These plus many other additives consumed by members of an industrialized society collect in the body and are stored in the tissue. Cancer occurs when the cells react to these excessive toxins in a sense, mutating into cells which reproduce uncontrollably. So much for the horrors of the meat industry. There are several other interesting physical and spiritual reasons for not eating meat. One is that it takes 4 times as much grain to feed animals than for the inocyte to consume it directly. This raises a moral question in regard to sharing our resources with poor people. Plants are the original source of energy for all living things, as they store the energy of Shamash, the sun, through photosynthesis. A person who does not eat a lot of meat not only taxes nourishment from the original source, but their diet is more economical with regards to the cost and the best utilization of available land. Seafood is very good for you, but that too can be taken in excess. Another more interesting fact is that an enocyte's digestive system is not one of a carnivore. His or her teeth is designed through mutation for biting and mashing original vegetables. But after so much mixing, now many Nubians have canine teeth for tearing flesh, which is why an enocyte ages, tenderizes, and cooks his or her meat to make it more eatable. Diet also alters the person's very appearance, from human to animal, as well as his or her nature. Meat eaters are much more violent. The human liver is proportionally smaller than that of a meat-eating animal, and is not built to handle the filtering of animal poisons. Also, the alimentary canal, which is short in carnivorous animals to speed poisons through the body quickly, is quite long in an enocyte's, as it is in any vegetarian animal. Note the untruth that you need meat, or that you will lose weight if you don't eat meat. Herbivores are much larger than carnivorous animals. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. Scroll 6, concentration. 19 times 3 equals 57. Lo, concentration, my child, is the act or process of concentrating. To concentrate is to focus, center, to bring or direct one's mind towards a common center or objective. Concentration is a very important principle, one that you should practice and try to master. For contrary to the belief that the art of concentration is simple, efficient concentration is not easily achieved. Your world, O mortal, is the materialization of thought forms of divine intelligence. It exists as vibration, just as there are waves of heat, light, electricity, and energy. There are also thought waves. Thought has tremendous power. Everyone experiences it to some degree. It could be used 1,000 times more effective if one had a comprehensive understanding of the working of thought vibration, the techniques for controlling them, and the method of transmitting them to others at a distance, which is called telepathy, telepath, the path through the mind to mind, one of your 4 higher senses. By understanding and realizing the power of the mind, one can see distant objects, hear distant sounds, send messages to any part of the universe, heal people thousands of miles away, and move to distant places in no time. There is no limit to the power of the mind. Consider, when flowing loosely over a wide area, every force in nature moves slowly and with less power than if gathered in one mass and directed through a single restricted outlet. Dammed and accumulated, the once sluggish and leisurely flow of the river rushes out with amazing force through the stream. The warm rays of Shamash, which ye know as the sun, focused through a magnifying glass, becomes hot enough to burn objects. Such is the power generated by the concentration of force. This natural law is also applicable to the enocyte in all branches of activities. Mental concentration is the fixing of the mind for an extended period of time on one external point. There can be no concentration without something on which the gathered rays of the mind can rest. It must be a single object or idea. People sometimes pride themselves on being able to think of 2 things at once. The mind does not work this way. Its oscillating waves are merely bouncing back and forth with lightning velocity between the 2 ideas. The mind can only do one thing at a time. Anyone who imagines that a mundane chore such as dishwashing goes faster if they are thinking of palm trees and sunny beach are fooling themselves. Their mental waves are moving between daydream and the task at hand. The attention actually given to the work is thus slowed down because of the constant interruptions, and the hands slow down too. How much better to keep the mind on one point and finish the job in a half time? Everyone possesses the ability to concentrate to some degree. Example, conscious practice of this innate ability strengthens the thought currents, clarifies ideas, and utilizes some of the immense latent powers of the mind. What has once become cloudy and hazy becomes clear and definite. What has been difficult, complex, and confusing becomes easy. One is able to work with greater efficiency, to turn out more work in less time, and to increase one's earning capacity. Concentration can also prevent or minimize the problems of senility. After the age of 30, an anacyte's brain cells dies off at the rate of 100,000 per day and are not replaced. It is vital to strengthen and make the best use of one's learning capacity. The anacyte, who practices concentration, retains clear mental vision. This is what is referred to as clairvoyance, clear vision. With utmost concentration attention, the surgeon operates on his or her patient. Deepest absorption marks the state of the technician, engineer, architect, or painter engaged in drawing the minute details of a plan, chart, or sketch in which accuracy is the highest importance. The same concentration is necessary on the spiritual path, where the aspiration must deal with the internal forces. For progress to be made, it must be developed to a very high degree. Practice demands patience, will, untiring persistence, and regularity. There are no shortcuts along the spiritual path. Mine your mind for the jewels of your soul. Scroll 7, Pleasure and the Mind. 19 times 2 equals 38. Lo, I, your master teacher, will speak to you on pleasures. Know ye that in the Holy Tablets, chapter 10, tablet 12, verse 147, it states, the less pleasure you have, the less your burden of liberation will be. Worldly pleasures intensify the desire for greater enjoyment. The mind can never be satisfied, no matter how many pleasures it is fed. Emotions become dangerous when they become motion. It is these emotions that make you fight, which leads to wars. Emotions which leads to greed, which causes you to overeat and leads to diseases, or eat yourself to obesity or death. Emotions which lead you to need and what you want, and sex which leads to lust, luster. You are exceptionally apt to get AIDS if you let your emotions be controlled by lust, or the luster of it makes you go out and buy or being a sexual instrument to give you pleasure. Then you will be an AIDS victim, because the fact that you need a vibrator shows you have lack of self-control. And if the opportunity arises for you to have sex, you'll take chances, not caring what the consequences might be, even possible death. Emotions, gluttonous, eaten to sickness, anger, wars, taking my, I want, lust, me, comfort conscious. When you're emotional and calm, you're okay. I'm not saying don't have feelings. Don't cry or let your anger get you into trouble because you can't control your mouth. When you are over-emotional sexually, you take chances you normally wouldn't and regret once you have AIDS. When you're over-emotional, you can get into a fight and have regrets. Or a person who is obese now has regrets that they're fat and say, I wish I could lose weight. Like getting fat wasn't their problem from the beginning. This is your own Trinity. 1, me. 2, myself. 3, I. These emotions lead to other emotions like fear and regret. A person with AIDS, AIDS, now realizes, I'm going to die. The person who is obese and has all this fat around their heart realizes, with the added worry, aggravation, which increases the chances of dying, say, I'm going to die. Emotions link into motion. When you give into your emotions, you give up part of your divinity. That means when you're upset by something, you are no longer in control of yourself, and therefore you're under the rule of another. You can say out of your mind. However, you can be under or in control of your own divinity and surrender your divinity to another who is in authority. The saying is, believe in yourself. Then they say, believe in God. They told you who you are in the scripture of the Apostle John, called in tones Yᴏᴜᴛᴛ, and in rhythm Yuhana, the 10th degree, the 34th verse, where it states, Jesus answered them saying, is it not written in your law, I said you are gods? And again in the scripture, which was received by the prophet David, called in tones Dawid, and in rhythm Dawud, the books of Psalms, the 82nd degree, the 6th verse, where it states, I said, you are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. For instance, when you humble yourself to someone, you are surrendering your divinity to them, but can't regain it back. It's not like once you lose your divinity that you can't regain it again. You lose it of your free will, so you can't earn it back when you will. Don't mix humbleness up with submission. They are not the same. No man knows less than the one who knows it all. Mind your mind for the jewels of your soul. This concludes part 2 from the reading of the mind. Stay tuned for part 3.